What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video here on the Samurai Sports Network, and today we're going to be talking about Stephen Ross, the Miami Dolphins, and the Miami culture in terms of sports. So, as you guys know, Stephen Ross has came out to be quoted on an article, I believe, by the New York Daily News, in saying that his players will stand next season, as well as saying that the Miami fan base is not a sports fan base. And I was listening to 790 The Ticket with, I believe it was Tobin that was on, and it was around 1 o'clock in the afternoon today, well, around 1:30 in the afternoon while I was driving to work. And the one thing that I, took to heart, which they were saying, was that, no, it's not a bad culture, but the fact that, the Dolphins, we've been searching for a winning season since Marino was gone. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's around like 1999, 2001, somewhere around that area. But regardless, I was 3 years old. I wasn't able to be a Dolphins fan back then. But, regardless, we've been looking for winning seasons. And when you talk about the Miami culture with sports, something that I take to heart, for someone who, I mentioned it a couple times, but I was, raised under the way that you cheer for the sports team of the place that you were born at. Although I was a Giants fan and a Mets fan when it came to baseball and football, my main teams were the Dolphins, the Marlins, and the Heat. And I even tried getting into hockey. I didn't like hockey, but I still tried to get into it. With the Panthers, I would try to play games with hockey to try to get more into it. I would watch their games. I went to a couple of games with my dad, but I just could never get into hockey. But if I was able to be in hockey, I'd be a Florida Panther fan, whether they were bad, good. Right now, I know they're making a run, and you know what? Maybe I'll even watch them. And will I cheer them on? Yeah. Will it be a bandwagon situation? Yeah, probably. But that's not the point. It's you cheer on the teams of your hometown. Now, a lot of people is a little different. Sometimes your family was born in Miami, but you were born somewhere else, but they grew up there and they raised you as this type of fan, and so you're a Dolphin fan from, New Jersey or something like that. That doesn't sound realistic, but you get what I mean. Or you're a Dolphins fan from California, teams that, places that didn't have teams before, except for the Chargers, right? So let's say it was that. Those are all completely, different situations and unique situations. But, I'm of the belief that what Stephen Ross said was wrong. Miami fans are some of the best fans in the world, in my opinion. When just from interacting with certain Miami fans, their love for the Dolphins, their love for the Heat, their love for the Marlins is unmatched. It has, and I'm not a New Yorker, but how people talk about New Yorkers and their teams, how it's ride or die no matter what. It has that feeling, where even though we're not winning, it's ride or die. And people bring up, oh, well, no one's going to the Heat games. Yeah, well, you know what? There's some people that aren't Heat fans. There's also some people who can't afford to go to Heat games, even if they're doing bad. And that's just how it is. Some people can't afford to go to games. Miami's never been the town that's known for always selling out stadiums. That's not what we do. We cheer on our teams, whether it's on the TV, whether it's on Twitter. Hell, for one, I'm waiting in an airport, ready to get on a flight from freaking Troy, New York to Miami, and I'm watching the Miami-Pittsburgh game. This was last year when Jay Ajayi broke off in his first huge game. Like, you do whatever it takes to watch. Now, do I have the money to go have season tickets? No, but am I going to root my team on from the side, go to a preseason game because those are cheaper, or, go to a game during the year maybe once or twice? Hell yeah. I do live stream, just in a point of view as a Miami fan. I do live streams at halftime. I make videos before the game. I do a live stream at the end of the game, or I do a video at the end of the game. For people, we are invested. Just because we are not going to the games doesn't mean anything in that point. Because the same people that say, oh, you only go to the games when your team's winning. What about Philly? Why does nobody talk about Philly? The 76ers have been the laughing stock of the NBA since Allen Iverson was gone. No one talks about how now all of a sudden everyone shows up to their games. What about the Yankees? There was a time where the Yankees couldn't even sell out Yankee Stadium. What about the Mets? What about the Giants? The Jets? The Panthers? Hell, New England can't even sell out their stadium all the time, I'm pretty sure. Because I'll watch games and there's seats missing. Is it a full crowd? Yeah, it's a full crowd. But it's not sold out. And you have the exception of Boston because They've had probably the best 20 years, and this was mentioned in 790 Tickets broadcast. They've had probably the best, they said decade. I'm going to go with 20 years of sports. The Celtics haven't sucked. The Patriots haven't sucked. The Red Sox haven't sucked. It's awful that we like to think that, you know, it's awful that we like to think that people can just not be a fan of something and it's whatever, you know? To hear that, regardless of whether it's my owner or not, I'm passionate about that because, look, the only team that I'm a hardcore fan of, that I wake up at 9:30 in the morning on Saturdays, Sundays, whatever day it is, to watch their games, it's Bayern Munich. But they're from Germany. That's a completely different situation. When Miami gets their soccer team, that flag, that's going to be there. But there's going to be a whatever the team's name flag is there. And that's what it's going to be. If I had more room, hell, I'll put up a Heat flag somewhere here. You root for the team. We, as Miami fans, do we like winning? Yes. Every sports market loves winning. Winning cures all. There's no issues when you're winning. But do we love our sports teams? Yeah. I mean, some of us go crazy about our sports teams. There are people, you know, for example, on Twitter, Houts, Finside Radio, and Sutton. People who do the Finside Radio. Sometimes it's live, sometimes it's recorded, pre-recorded. I believe none of them are from Miami. I think one's from Cleveland, and I don't know where the other two are. But they don't live in Miami, I guess. Let's put it that way. They're hardcore Dolphins fans. And that's not Miami, but your team has brought on fan bases from everywhere. They mentioned how when he came in here, Stephen Ross, he won this whole celebrity aspect, and all these people were minority owners of the Miami Dolphins. We don't care about the celebrity aspect. We want our team to not be a laughingstock anymore. As fans, our team has been the laughingstock of jokes of the AFC East time after time after time after time after time. We fall back on the Marino era. We fall back on the Don Shula, prime era. We fall back on all these things for the Dolphins. For the Heat, we fall back on the Dwayne Wade stuff. We fall back on LeBron James, Chris Bosh, Alonzo Mourning, Shaquille O'Neal, Udonis Haslem. We fall back on these guys, right? Because they're near and dear to our hearts. Winning, whatever it was, they did something. Udonis Haslem, has he been the type player that Dwayne Wade is? No. But guess what? Udonis Haslem, he means a lot to the Miami community. Kenny Stills. Is Kenny Stills the most outstanding, top-notch, best wide receiver? No. Would I probably put him in the top 10, 15? Yeah, I would. But what does he do for the community? What does he do for the community? He's huge in the community. Michael Thomas is huge in the community. They put the fans, they keep the fans here. And to say that we don't have a good fan base, it's not the market for sports. Is it a tourist area? Yeah. Miami is a tourist area. Freaking Heat's, the American Airlines Arena, is right next to Bayfront. But guess what? When it comes down to sports, we love our teams. We cheer on our teams. We do whatever it takes to be a fan of that team. We do whatever it takes to stay up to the games. Even if it has to be following people we don't like on Twitter to get score updates. We read every article from Armando Salguero. We read every article from Barry Jackson, from Adam Beasley, from even even Omar Kelly. Man, we read all the articles from the Sun Sentinel, from the Miami Herald, from Finsider.com, from Sports Nation, from Bleacher Report, from anything you can think of. We are divulged and we are invested in our team. Do you want to see those numbers? Do you want to act like there's a fan base? Then guess what? Stop making stupid decisions. Fire your shitty, person that's running your front office in Mike Tannenbaum. Keep the guys that you need to keep in a Will Grier, or not a Will Grier. You know what I'm talking about. in an Adam Gase. Keep the people that you need to keep. Keep Greer at GM. Get rid of Tannenbaum. Get Gase. And you know what? If you don't feel like Gase is your head coach, then instead of continuing to give him years, fire him. Do that. If you think that that's the thing, if you hire someone who believes in their heart that it's not going to be the future, then you do it. But you make decisions for your team that'll be beneficial. Don't sit back and act like the owner who, does anything. You were the one who lost out on the Jets. You lost out on buying the Jets. So what'd you do? You bought the Marlins, or you bought the Dolphins. You might have a New York basis. You might think that New York is fancy, all nice and fancy. But us here, we care about our teams. And you've been fucking up our team. And this is, something that I, deeply care about. Because Stephen Ross, you want to sit here and say that your players are going to stand? All right. But then guess what? The people that you're telling to stand, those are the guys that do the most in the community that you've never been involved in. You want to tell them, that it's a bad sports community? Oh, really? Because when the Heat were doing awful, we showed up. When the Marlins are doing awful, we show up. The Panthers, we show up. Not even MLS soccer. I think it's NALCS soccer that we're doing for Miami FC in FIU Stadium. And guess what? They show up. Dolphins games, the ones that you care about the most, we show up. Who did we cheer on when he made, instead of having the taxes situation, he did the renovations with his own money on our stadium? We cheered on you, Stephen Ross. And what did you do? You came back and you said that we have a bad sports fan base. You'll see a bad sports fan base when they're calling for you to sell the team like they are in Carolina. That's a situation that's racially, enticed. But this situation, they'll be calling for you to sell. They will. Because eventually, Miami fans, they're not going to care anymore. You sparked something that fans aren't going to get over. And when they're not getting over it, when they're not able to have a fall guy in a Ryan Tannehill, in a Jarvis Landry, in an Adam Gase, in a Jay Ajayi, in a Mike Tannenbaum, in a Chris Greer. I said Will Greer, but Chris Greer. Who's it going to fall on? It's going to fall on Stephen Ross. So continue to hire shitty personnel. Continue to say that this coach is the next great coach. Am I a fan of Adam Gase? I'm a fan of Adam Gase. So this is nothing on Adam Gase. But don't hire idiots like Joe Philbin. Don't hire idiots like Mike Tannenbaum. Work on a scouting department. Work on personnel. Make your locker room a better place. Have your players be stand-up guys. You want to have all this crap about this business stuff. That's cool. How about getting some stand-up guys? How about getting guys who care about the community like a Michael Thomas, like a Kenny Stills, who put work in for the community, who love the community? You want to hit the fan base where it hurts? They're going to hit the fan base. They're going to hit your pockets where it hurts. Because when they stop showing up to games, it's going to make it bad. Because you already have to block off sections to make it feel like the stadium's full. The only time that the stadium's going to be full after this year, if statements like that continue to come from Stephen Ross, is going to be in Madden. And even then, they'll probably see fans walking out of the stadium.